guys from the Philippines and helping them to develop a bit of a business plan or a plan to get a federation set up. So hopefully you'll be here this afternoon, you two. And the young fella from Taiwan is he about this morning? I can't see him. Oh, is that you? Yep, Taiwan. Yep, so we'll also be talking to you about how to help you get your federation set up. So we've got all the experts in the room, and I'm sure we can help you get started and progress your identity federations, both in eduGAIN and identity federations more quickly. Okay, so we've got some new folk in the room, so we might just do our usual thing of standing up and telling us who you are, and I'll kick it off. It says there, Terry Smith, Head of Support at the Australian Access Federation. I'm also the chair of the eduGAIN IAM, Identity Access Management Working Group, and have been doing that role for way too long. But it's hard to find a replacement, but I keep looking. So if you just want to quickly zoom around the room, the microphone I'll grab from over there and we can pass it around. That's on.
Morning all, Paul Axelsson from Sunet in Sweden. I'm running the federation there, the Swamit Federation, and also working with eduGAIN and sitting in the eduGAIN steering committee.
Hello. Oh, let me stand otherwise. Well, not that I'm that short, but I'm Maarten Kremers. I'm from SURF, which is the Research and Education Network in the Netherlands. I'm there in the Trust and Identity Department. We run our own federation already for like 15 years and a couple of iterations. And I'm here also in the capacity of what we would call the program manager for eduGAIN Global Service and eduGAIN Global Service. Well, I'll go like this and then we'll go back. Otherwise the microphone's in the back.
Hi, my name is Farhan. I'm from Civil Malaysian Access Federation, so responsible for the operation of Civil Federation and also eduROM in Malaysia.
Sorry. I'm Christian Todorov with Internet2, and I work on our international program.
Hi, James Deaton with Internet2. I work adjacent to the people that are doing all this, and so I just had a great deal of interest.
Hi, good morning. I'm Motone Nakamura from Japan, Gakunin and also Kyoto University.
Thank you. My name is Basuki. I'm from eduGAIN, Indonesia. Currently, we are running several services in eduROM, but maybe we will have renew all the things for the eduROM, including the IAM. Thank you.
Hello everyone. I'm Takeshi Nishimura from Japan. I'm operating Identity Federation Gakunin. Thank you.
Hello everyone. I'm John Marlo Evangelista, currently the Senior ICT Manager of University of the Philippines, Diliman.
Hi, I'm Colina Estrada. I'm also from the University of the Philippines, and yay.
Hi, this is Miyamoto from KDDI and in charge of operation of APAN59, APAN JP. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Mark. I'm from National Yangming Jiao Tong University and Academic Sinica from Taiwan. And I think all of you know I'm come here to build up our own federation. Okay, thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Davide Vaghetti from GAR, the Italian ENDRAN, and I'm here as the eduGAIN service owner.
Hello everyone, I'm Dalia Abraham from Australian Access Federation. Thank you.
Okay, thanks everyone. Good to see you. I've got a couple of new players at the back. Okay, so let's get into adding a service to eduGAIN. What's it all about? So, what is eduGAIN? I think we've had this slide a few times. It's an inter-federation service that connects identity federations around the world, simplifying access to content, services and resources for the Global Research and Education Federation. So it's just the federation of federations. There are a number of us in the room this morning that run federations that are already connected to eduGAIN, and we have a couple in the room that are aiming to do so into the future. So there's a good community around eduGAIN, and some of that community is here today, and there's plenty of ways you can connect to the community. There's Slack channels, there's email lists, there's a website, the wiki and so forth. So just look up eduGAIN and make contact, reach out. If you have any questions or don't understand anything after the conference, we're all here, and we're all here to help as part of our global community. Can't say that enough. We're here to work together. So why would you connect a service or your service to eduGAIN? There's a couple of good reasons. We'll just sort of quickly go through these. The first one's international collaboration. So if you have a service that is for a research activity and you have researchers that are spread around the world, things like LIGO is an example, the Hadron Collider, the Square Kilometre Array telescope that's being built in Australia and South Africa. These are all global research initiatives or activities that really require researchers globally to connect, collaborate and work together. And identity federations and eduGAIN certainly help in that space in making it easier for the researchers to access those particular research initiatives and to help those research initiatives with their identity and access management. So that's one reason. The second reason is to increase the potential audience for your service. So if you're a publisher and you have lots of papers and other stuff that you want to get out to the world, connecting to your federation is good. It makes it easier for your local universities, researchers, staff and students to access those publisher research resources. But if you then connect out to eduGAIN, you've multiplied your potential audience by up to 78 other federations being able to access those resources. The UK Federation and In Common have lots of publishers already in their federations, so they've already seen the benefits of putting them out into eduGAIN and getting that global community or global audience to be able to access that stuff. And for publishers, it's all about the dollars as well, so there's a potential for making more money out of the connecting to eduGAIN. Lower cost per user, your audience grows without increasing costs for maintenance of user credentials. So you're not having to connect bilaterally or through different mechanisms to your IDPs that you want to connect to. Once you've connected once, that's it. You're already able to, as new universities join federations, there's no real increase to cost for you to add those users into your service. So there's a couple, three really good reasons there. There's probably other reasons that it's beneficial to join eduGAIN, but those are sort of the three biggies that I sort of have thought of and have found that we have people in Australia when they want to connect to eduGAIN. These are generally the three sort of reasons they're looking at. Can I connect my service directly to eduGAIN? And the answer there is no. You can't just take a service and plug it straight into eduGAIN. You need to take it and connect it to your national identity federation, and then they will connect you into eduGAIN. So eduGAIN is just a federation of federations. It's not a federation of services and IDPs. It's do you want to say something about that, Martin?
Some coming plans. No.
We don't have those plans.
No, we don't have those plans.
So no, you can't connect your servers directly to eduGAIN, but connect it through a identity federation. And if you haven't got an identity federation and you're in the room, you're in the right place, we'll help you get one for your nation and for your NREN to run. So connecting through your national identity federation. So you must join an identity federation to join eduGAIN. Does your federation have an identity federation? If you're not sure, check the eduGAIN members list. So we'll just have a quick look at what that looks like, which is this page here, and hopefully that will just do the it onto that screen. Try and make it bigger. It always does that. Sod. Gonna make it smaller to make it bigger. So this is the eduGAIN's members list. It lists all of the nations and their identity federations that are connected to eduGAIN. On this list you'll find contact information and information to the federation policies and so forth. So I'm just going to have a look at our federation from India. So we helped them build their federation as part of the APAN activities a while back, and they've been growing really well and continue to grow. This is called INFED, it's India, and on the right hand side of the page you'll see information about that federation. I'm just going to have to come over here so I can grab the other microphone. So all these slides will be available on the APAN website afterwards, so if you need the links, they'll be embedded in the slides. So we've got the area served. This one covers India. It says when they joined the federation, so that was back, actually no, it was when they re-signed the declaration, so it doesn't actually tell you when they joined. They've got their federation page, they've got their contact information, and they don't have a security contact. We'll have to deal with that when we get back home, get Raj to fix that up. They've got their delegates and their deputies, and these are the two people that will potentially join the eduGAIN town hall meetings. They happen once a year, is that right, pal? Town halls, or ish? Ish. Yep.
Not every year. It's now we did it
bi-yearly more.
Right.
Next one is in...
But the eduGAIN assembly meeting is at least once per year.
Right.
Either if we have a town hall or not.
Yep.
Yeah, that's for sure virtual because we want to be as inclusive as possible.
Yep. So that's a meeting where all the eduGAIN members come together and go through what's happening, get updated on what's happening with regards to eduGAIN. They've got their policy documents listed here. They supply an English version, and then there's some SAML specific information available. They've actually got 234 entities in eduGAIN, 222 IDPs and 12 services. They've got a long way to go. They've got thousands of universities in India, so they're continuing to grow, and they should also continue to grow the number of services that they're making available to eduGAIN. You'll find a lot of newer federations will not have that many services. They'll have identity providers that are looking to connect out to publishers and so forth. But this is really going the other way, connecting your services from your nation out into eduGAIN and getting all that value that I talked about earlier. So I'm going to explore what it looks like to actually connect to an identity federation. I'm going to use India again. I'm going to see what their website looks like. So what do we got? Let's just jump onto that side there. So this is the INFED website. It's their documentation, but we'll just jump onto the home site first. So they've got three main things they're looking at. They've got the metadata, the WAIF, which is the discovery service, and their federation rules, and a link onto how to join. They've also got some pretty graphics. So it's metadata, rules, WAIF, service providers and institutions. They've got a little bit of about INFED, so the Indian Access Management Federation. The first federation in India has adopted Shibboleth, a standard-based open source, blah, blah, blah. You can read all that at your leisure. And then they've got a list of who their members are. So they've got, no, this is more about documentation on how to set up stuff in their federation. What you're really looking for when you go to this is how to join. So, is my service going to be eligible to join? So for the Indian Federation, they've got the eligible institutions. This is about universities, colleges, private universities and colleges and other institutions. So they're trying to be as inclusive as possible, not just limiting to their NREN members, but to anyone who's one of these sort of organisations. So that's for the identity provider side of things. For the publisher sides, which is the services, all publishers providing access to e-resources under the eShodos, whatever that is, consortium. Dali will know how to say that better than I can. Or NList. Again, I'm not sure what that is. That's some obviously Indian program of activities. And are a member of the INFED. So they really want their publishers to be part of the their NREN, but there's a bit of an out there. However, it is open to anyone to be part of INFED. So again, the inclusivity. They're not restricting it to just members of their NREN. So I have a service. It's providing some sort of scholarly activity. I think I'm eligible to join the Indian Federation as long as I actually operate out of India. For you guys in the Philippines and in Taiwan, if you want services to join out, you really want them to be as inclusive as possible. So don't put too many restrictions on your membership. So how to join? Let's have a look at what the process that our friend Raj has for India. So universities, colleges, falling into the categories mentioned. Most submit an application along with a signed participation agreement, and the Federation may request additional information with regards to the participating information. So they're agreeing to, when they sign that participation agreement, I'm assuming that they would be agreeing to the Federation rules. And because it's a signed document, it's going to be a legal document, it needs to be somebody who has the power to sign documentation on behalf of their organisation. In Australia, we usually go for the CIO, the Chief Information Officer or equivalent, who generally will have that ability within their organisation to sign off when they join the Federation. So participating universities and colleges or service providers are required to assign its officers and or faculty as its administrative and technical contacts to the INFED. So they're looking for contact information to be provided and photocopy indications. And then they review that, so applications from other institutions, research organisations would be examined and accepted on a case-by-case basis. They've got an online membership form, they've got rules for membership, and they've got their use of personal data. So they've provided some information about what you need to do and what forms you need to fill in, and a link to the membership rules, which you need to agree to. Then they come to the hard part, the money. So they've actually charged people to participate in INFED. So they don't charge fees for the core member universities. However, the workload and membership database increases for core members. INFED may propose a nominal membership fee for core member universities. So at the moment, they're not charging their core universities, but they've indicated that in the future they may want to charge if the federation gets big enough that they need to have more staff to help run this thing. And I believe INFED run with 4 staff at the moment. So it's Raj and his wife and a couple of other folk. So, they're doing a great job. It's a difficult job, being such a big place, India, but they're managing at the moment. But they've also got a mechanism in place to enable them to grow. And that's looking at sustainability for their federation. Other institutions, membership for other institutions would be open only after complete implementation of INFED for all publishers. Charges for other institutions would be announced at a later date, so they haven't really got the funding model there yet. And for publishers, they're letting them come in for free, providing access to their resources to universities and college under the consortium. And so it's those that are participating in those particular activities. I expect other publishers may have to pay into the future to join INFED. In Australia, we have a strange and wonderful charging model for our universities and our publishers. It's based on the size of the university, their research income. Size is measured by the effective full-time staff. We don't count students in sizing. Their income, so the bigger the university, the more they pay. And generally, the bigger universities are doing much more research, taking much more use of the federation, and don't generally cause us many more tickets, but we've got it in that place. And our universities are happy to work that way. The smaller universities only pay a small amount, the large pay a large amount because they've got the funding to do so. And again, that's around trying to be sustainable for our federation. If we charged everybody the same thing, then the small universities would say, well, they're getting much more benefit out of your federation than us, why are we paying so much? So we try to be helpful to keep those small universities in the federation because we want everybody in, again, inclusivity. So the joining process is fairly straightforward. You get your CIO to sign a form, you agree to the federation rules, and then you put your identity provider or service into the federation. So that's how India does it. I'm not sure how other federations do it, so we might just sort of quickly go around the federation operators in the room, starting with Paul.
So in SWAMID, only identity providers are members. Services are not members. They must fulfill some criteria. The criteria are they are part of a member, they are supplying a service to one or more members, it's a government service for our members, it's something that fulfills the requirements for classical research and scholarship, research scholarship, and then special decisions. We don't take out any fee based on federation membership because our fees is based on the connection to the network. So our universities and other organizations are paying based on size, money for the internet connection, the federation, and more stuff. So that's how we do it.
So for Serve Connect, the Dutch federation, it's, I think, more basically the same as in Sweden. So we are Serve itself is a membership organization where people basically pay a basic subscription fee for net basic services. That has also to do with some procurement tendering issues that basically we take over their tendering care. So that means in our case that all the universities, and I would say close to 99%, at least in student population of the applied universities, are a member of SURF, and also some secondary, what is it, the other, the ones below the applied universities, yeah, what is it, yeah, and then even that, but anyway, yeah. Yeah, I think that's yeah, exactly. Thank you. That way, I always have to. I always forgot what the English term is, but the vocational training. So the yeah, the more the. Yes, exactly. And then they're not the but not the one in the high school, but the yeah, there's yeah, the one after that one. Yeah, so the vocational. Thank you. I'm always struggling with that word. I mean, I don't know it in Dutch, but in English differently. Anyway, but they are also massively a member of SURF nowadays. But to go quickly over it, so we have a large bunch, and those are members of SURF, also use SURF Connect. So they pay a fee based on their subscription for the whole packages. We don't charge service providers. And a service provider can basically anybody who signs up with the contract, and we don't charge them separately because we think we do it on behalf of our members, and we make it also for the service provider, therefore easier to do it in a more secure way. Because, and that, I mean, that always, but that's also a side note, it always surprises me that you see like, oh, for some of the cloud services out there, they say, well, if you use our login system, we don't charge you. If you want to use your SAML connection, which is for them even cheaper, we charge you. Pure madness.
So I forgot to say how big our federation is and coverage. We are a small country, very small country. We only have around 10 million people living in the country. But a fifth of those are in our sector. So around 20% of all people within Sweden are in the higher ed sector, one way or another, researchers, employees, students, and so on. We have a coverage of around 95% of all universities, university colleges, government agencies around this, and so on. The last we have is those with less than 100 students. Those are, but we have a solution for them now. But they are the last, and they are 9 right now.
Okay, as for Malaysia, to join our federation as an identity provider, the institution need to pay the membership fee. The fees depend the size of the institution. We have 3 tier. I think below 15,000 population, between 15,001 to 25 or 30,000, I forgot. And then after that is above up to 35,000, then after that 35,001 until unlimited. So that's how we charge. So the bigger the population, the more they have to pay. So for the service provider, at the moment we don't charge, basically to encourage more services connected to our federation. At the moment we have more IDP than service provider because many of the service provider are accessed through the eduGAIN for the metadata rather than directly to us. So that is, as for the requirement, the institution need to be recognized by the government, and for the service provider, as long as they're providing legitimate service to the education institution, then they are welcome. What else? About the coverage, at the moment, we only cover about 30% at the moment. actually in Malaysia, the public institution not that much. The private is more, but private has their own different focus area. So we're still thinking some strategy how to approach the private university to join, probably by combining the triple, we call it triple play, eduroam, Identity Federation plus EduVPN as a bundle service and so on. Yeah, that's, yep. 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 In average, each institution is not many in the above 35,000. Is only probably 3 institutions only in the whole country. The majority for the public institution is on the second tier, between 15,001 up to 35,000. For the private, mostly is below 15,000. Actually, private, they have many institutions, but the number of students not that much. Public, less, but more students. Yeah, so that is the demography. But majority is under the second tier, between 15,000. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
I imagine there may be people in this part of the room that may know more about it than I do, but I do know that there's a 4-tier fee structure based on the size of the institutions, and it applies to the classification of the university, or if it's a research organization, the number of employees, or if it's a sponsored partner based on their revenue. And so I think it was interesting to see the differences going through status and digging into this. I mean, the fees are somewhat high for some of the institutions to participate, but one of the things that's unclear to me is the participant or service provider fee. There are limits, even as a participant, how many services that can be provided before there's additional fees. But that's about the extent of my knowledge on it. So
I do know the service providers do get charged.
yeah, it's something, I believe it's about $1,000 a year for the effort.
No, it's not a lot.
It's not a lot, but it is a barrier.
But
Yeah.
it is a barrier. It's not a free tier there. That's what I know.
Yeah.
We used to have a limit of 20 services for our institutions that they could bring in, and we got rid of that.
Oh, good.
It's just open started, bring as many services as you want, because we really want the universities to share, to collaborate, and there was a bit of a road bump at the we've got 4 left. Who are we going to give them to? You can't have one.
Yep. That's all. I think ours is 50. That's included, and so yeah, that it becomes a struggle when you get to that border. And I mean, just because some of these costs get approved, and even just the act of adjusting them in a budget at a small institution is more trouble than it's worth, even if it's a small increase. But what's that? Oh.
Now, that is I think the following discussion that's already running around in a common. But
And I will add, I mean, it's tangential, but membership within Internet 2, eduroam is included, and they see that kind of as the gateway of getting people to want to join as an in-common participant. So, I mean, it's just it seems to be the kind of the gateway drug.
Oh, Takeshi will explain.
No. You want to talk?
Thank you. Okay, first for this information that okay, we in Indonesia right now is built again the eduGAIN, and then include the services for the eduroam, and then yeah, but we will we now support more than 20 university. I mean for the eduroam, but for our members in the eduGAIN is around 150 university. we have 15 nodes at the backbone, at the university backbone. Yeah, the people that use the eduroam is totally is around maybe more than 10,000 people. But we will try to expand this eduroam and maybe eduGAIN facility to the student. Yeah, usually the student access is just only limited for some services. So that's we will try to build the services again for the broader, depend on the student, because mostly in Indonesia the technical university is not many. So many in the field of the economies, management, and yeah, even culture, social politics, student something, and but with the growth of the internet, they use the data, they use the many services of the data. And then now, usually they are using for the using many things. I mean, for the ID is using for usually using the something like Gmail, Google, or Microsoft something. But we will, so that's why we will try to have another. I mean, access to something like eduGAIN and something like eduroam. Yeah, that's right now we try to build again the step-by-step procedure and many things, because there is some technical things in the network, but we have a solution, and then now we try to build again some services in some area. Mostly people using the eduroam for the access for the internet through among the university. When one student or one researchers go to others, that's and then they ask again about how to connect after the eduroam, how do we connect to the eduGAIN, because many services that there is some researcher that they have to collaborate using the eduGAIN, and then they have some difficulties. So that's why they ask me about is that eduGAIN can support for the something like the eduGAIN services. That's the idea.
Yeah, no, I mean, because we were in contact until just 2 years ago, and you were at a very good point. At some point, Federasi did not go through the whole process.
Yes. It's possible. We will try to support. Yeah, we will try to finish all the procedure again. Maybe we will.
Please ask for anything.
Okay.
Because we are here exactly for this.
Yeah, actually, maybe we in several years ago there is our colleagues from other university, but maybe right now they have some difficulties. So that's why we in IDRN try to follow. I mean, continue again the procedure, because many people asking about this. Yeah, connection among. Yeah, thank you. Sorry.
For Japan.
In Japan, sorry. Current status of the Anti-TB Federation, right? Sorry. We have 300 identity federation, identity providers and 200 service providers. They are participating in free of charge, both IDPs and SPs. right now we are challenging also provided in the presentation in the first day. We are try to provide assurance level of identity and authentication, multi-factor authentication, or and so IAL2 or and so on. Okay.
Finally, do you want to tell what's happening in Italy?
Thanks. Yeah, in Italy, we have actually 155 identity providers, members. We don't have a fee for members, and but we do have a rule: you must be connected to the NRAN in order to be a member. So they do pay, the service with the bundle that they pay for the connection and for the services that they get from the NRAN, from GAR. And for the services, it is free of charge because, again, we want to provide more services to our members. The more, the better. Lately, most of the services are not really publishers, but mainly from universities and research centers or services from commercial providers, but not for the publishers. And to be honest, we are discouraging publishers. So lately we've been contacted by the economists, and we told them, guys, we already have your metadata from eduGAIN. You're already published in our federation. Why? I mean, that's why eduGAIN is there. So we prefer to import your metadata from eduGAIN instead of you joining locally the federation again. So most of the services are 130, more or less, and mostly are services for research. And the other thing is about the coverage. We have 100% of the state universities that are the most in Italy, and a good coverage also of the private one. Some of the smallest online universities didn't join yet, but this is it, more or less.
Actually, I have a question. You mentioned that you're encouraging service providers to join the eduGAIN rather than directly through the federation. All your IDPs are actually in eduGAIN? So that's one of the problem we have. Okay. So all the IDPs are actually connected to the eduGAIN as well, not just the GAR Federation. No. Okay, yeah. Yeah, in Australia we only have because we chose the opt-in option. We don't have anybody everybody in sort of thing. So that's one of the issue we're finding it. So if service want to provide to Australian users, and if they are not part of eduGAIN, then that's they need to join.
We have the opt-out model, but to be honest, we don't even need that. I mean, even with the opt-in model, everyone would say, yes, I want to be in eduGAIN. That's why we joined the federation also.
Yeah, that makes sense. And what about, do you have a health and government organizations in part of the federation, or?
Yes, we do have research hospitals.
Okay.
Yeah, they're quite a good partner. Lately, they joined also the NRAN fully, because previously they joined the NRAN via the Ministry of Health.
Yeah.
Now they are in the association. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
That's good.
As Davide said, we had the same policy. eduGAIN first. That means that normally a publisher is registered in UKF or in Common and gets into SAMID by eduGAIN, because The problem with double registration or triple registration is that the metadata will be different, and that is a pain.
So as we've, thanks for that everyone for participating. As we've seen, people do it differently, but it's fairly close. There are some subtle differences between the way we operate the Federation. When you bring up your new Federation, you're going to have that chicken and the egg problem of getting identity providers to join, getting universities to join. What's the benefit for them? Bringing services in, there's no identity providers in your Federation. Why should I join your Federation? Paul talked to that yesterday. And when we first started our Federation, we had exactly the same issue. So we opened the doors and made it free for everyone to join. We wore the cost of it. Some of the universities paid a project fee to participate. We had 10 universities who were enthusiastic. They paid up some money. We got the Federation going. Once we got that ball rolling, it sort of grew and grew and grew fairly quickly. Our government saw that it was a good thing and they funded us after the fact, and then we refunded those 10 universities who started us off, just to make sure that they were happy. So there's plenty of ways to get your Federation going. You've got to also think about how to keep it going sustainably. But we're not talking about federations, we're talking about connecting your services. So you found your Federation details, you've talked to the folk, you found their website, found the membership form and have joined the Federation. What's next? So my organisation, which is going to run this service, is now part of the Federation. What's next? Because I haven't actually done anything except sign a piece of paper. So you really need to consider what your service is going to provide to the Federation. Is it going to provide collaboration type services like wikis, blogs, a place for researchers to meet and talk? Is it going to provide file and data sharing services? So like a file sender type thing where a researcher from one organisation can log in using their credentials, send a file off, and another researcher on the other side of the planet can then pick up that file and do whatever data analytics or whatever he needs or she needs to do with that. Is it going to be enabling access to HPC, which is I think what you guys are trying to achieve in your Federation? That's a harder task to do, but it is achievable. We had a good chat about that on Tuesday, I think. Is it going to be providing access to research infrastructure? The hardware, the telescopes, the beamline arrays, the other tools and things, and provide access to that more around a registration type process to be able to use this stuff and to request access to this these particular research hardware and stuff. Is it going to be publishers? And as we've just sort of talked about, it's probably best to get your publishers through eduGAIN rather than have them join, but there are publishers in your local country that might not have the be part of eduGAIN, and they're just waiting for your Federation to come along so they can join eduGAIN and have that global reach to potential users of their published content. Is your service going to be for verifications? So do you want to verify that this person is a student, this person is a staff member at the university, for whatever purpose you may have that you need that verification service? And there are probably other reasons that you could think of that I just ran out of brain space of thoughts of what reasons you could have to provide your service to the Federation.
Student services.
Student services. So yeah, teaching and learning, of course. Forgot that one. I'll put that in. So your Moodles, your Blackboards, those sort of things, if you want to share those, that learning content across organisations, that's Federations useful in that space. So, starting to get a bit more technical now. You've got your service, it's some software running on some machine somewhere, and you want people to log into it. So your service is going to have some requirements. It may need some information about the user who's logging in. So that information is what we call user attributes. It's things like your email address, your name, your organisation name. We might require some assurance. So it might be a highly valuable, high performance computing service that you just don't want anybody in your federation. You don't want students going on there and setting up, what do they call that stuff? Setting up game sort of places or just wasting resource. So you might really want to assure that the person who's logging in is who they say they are and that their credentials are hard to be compromised. You might want to have some way of authorising access. So you just want to limit the usage of the particular resource to a certain cohort or a project, or just only for staff, or maybe only for students, or maybe for alumni. There might be a service specific for alumni. You want your service to be secure. So we'll, not much point putting up an insecure service that's going to be wasting money, time and effort and causing all sorts of grief. And you want your service to be publicised. You want people to know about your service, to be able to find your service so that they can utilise it. It's not much use putting up a service and then hiding it from everybody or not making people aware of it. So those are sort of the high-level requirements for your service. So let's just dive down into each of those. So firstly, let's have a look at user attributes. So what sort of information about your users will help your service provider function and operate successfully? And there's a number of categories we'll go through. First one's the unique identifier. So you really want to be able to uniquely identify users when they join your service. And there are a number of options that you can look at. The first one is the eduPerson targeted ID, and we recommend you don't use that. We've been trying to deprecate that unique identifier for many years. How are you guys going with getting rid of eduPerson targeted ID?
Very simple. If a service explicitly demanded, we support it, otherwise not.
Right. So you're sort of really starting to push back. Yeah. Davide, have you done anything to get rid of targeted ID?
Yes.
Well done.
Yeah, because we did a campaign some time ago. It was quite successful for the actual service provider. But I was thinking out loud that this is really something it's difficult to get rid of at the admin level.
Yep.
Because FTID is, I mean, when you have a service provider, local service provider, for local service providers, we did get rid of FTID. But that's just, 120
Yep.
out of 4,000 service providers we have in Eden, because we bought all the rest from eduGAIN. And in eduGAIN, the publishers are really so much in love with FTID. Mostly the publishers,
Yep.
I have to be honest. And it's really difficult to make them change their idea. And also, we don't have, because we import them from eduGAIN, we don't have a direct relationship. So
Right.
that's something that it's difficult to do for one federation.
Yep.
So it's probably something for eduGAIN, but eduGAIN, again, we don't have a policy for those kind of stuff.
Yep. So we're also trying to remove this attribute, and everyone I talk to, we're getting rid of it one day. But as you say, it's not easy. We'll probably keep it so it's provided by identity providers, but not being available to service providers to consume within the AAF. So for new federations, try not to even provide this as an option for your service providers from the get-go. The eduPerson principal name, this is a thing that looks like an email address, but generally isn't. Sometimes it is, but it shouldn't be. So it's basically your username at your institution's domain. This one's a fairly good one, but there are two better ones which are that have popped up recently, which is your SAML subject ID, which is a equivalent thing to principal name, because it doesn't change between service providers, and the pairwise ID, which does have a different value per service provider, and it's a good replacement for the eduPerson targeted ID if you need that. There's always ORCID, but most universities won't provide ORCID as a federation attribute at the moment. And please don't use email as your unique identifier. There's so many things that are wrong with doing that, because people's email addresses do change from time to time, particularly if somebody gets married or they get divorced or change their name by depol. The divorced ones are the most onerous, because somebody gets divorced, they don't want their husband's name on anything. And if it's stuck in their email address, they will get annoyed and just annoy the crap out of you. I used to work at a university, and that used to be a big problem, that email addresses have to change, and it was not easy, not pretty.
The other thing with email addresses, they are reusable.
Yep.
Of course, if there is a janitor with a specific name, and then the proof has come in the same name, who will have that mail address?
Yep.
In Malaysia, we have problem with the last one, because many systems that or service that bring it over to federation was part of legacy. So they either use email as the unique identifier or use the national ID. So of course I presented this before, and like a jumping off, looking at how it is the identifier is. So, but the good news is in Malaysia there's no culture of putting husband name after this. There's no like maiden and after married name in Malaysian culture. So
Yep.
basically just their name, unless if they change their name mostly. And also most of the universities, they don't recycle email. So what's assigned to a person, that will be last one.
And then it's unique.
Yeah, that's unique. Yeah. So, well, as long as that kind of measurement is there, so generally it's okay. But maybe, well, it's still in the process of learning. Most of the service provider will adapt with the new norm in this identification, like using subject ID or pairwise and so on. Hopefully, we'll be there in a couple of years.
So when you're not saying not email, it should say not name-based email.
Yep.
Because those are the problem.
A lot of those in Australia. We've also had the problem of universities changing their name and their domain. So,
Yeah, domain rules.
and that's really painful, because the whole of that university's email address range changes.
We have a case, so it's messy.
And we have a unique situation coming up soon in Australia, where two universities are merging into one.
Oh, that's also.
That's a pain in the head.
Oh, yeah. They're two fairly major universities there.
That's really a pain.
Both for universities themselves, but
Yeah,
for everyone else.
that's a pain.
Yep. So we're looking forward to that.
Difference, but merging is really a pain. Yeah.
We also have issues that like a branch university, like some university in UK, they open campus in Malaysia. So whether you want to use Malaysian identity or using UK identity.
Or as we have universities in some European countries where the different faculties are their own legal entity.
Yep.
That's an interesting problem too.
Oh, okay. Standalone.
That's standalone, but not.
So there's a raft of options for unique identifier. So why would your service want a unique identifier? And the main reason is to be able to remember that user and to tie that user to the activities they've done, to be able to bill for that usage, to do that sort of stuff where a unique identifier is useful. Yep. The next set of attributes that may be of interest are the user's name and contact information, And there are a few options here. We've got display name, first name and surname, or combinations of all of those three, which make up a way to display the person's name. And this is useful for when you want the service to say, hello, Terry, welcome to my service. It's really hard to do that unless you have that particular name being provided by the identity provider. And for contact, generally the email address is going to be available. Most federations, I don't know any federations that publish phone numbers or other contact information like LinkedIn addresses or other stuff. We in the AAF are looking at publishing the eduPerson ORCID, which could also be used as a contact point. It's more an identifier. So these are your options for names, and it's really about personalising your service and to be able to contact a person out of line. So if you want to email people about some particular activity that's happening for your service, you've got their email address, you can do that. The user's organisation, where they're from, is always useful to know, particularly if you want to bill for usage or restrict access based on a particular set of universities. There are three options here. So you've got the organisation name, and that's really the human readable name of the university. You've got the SHAC home organisation, which is the domain name of the university. And if you really want to dig hard, you can get the the entity ID of the IDP, but that's a very difficult one to sort of understand, but it generally doesn't change. The other two can change over time. The affiliation, so how is the person related to the university? And there's two options here. There's the straight affiliation, and then there's the scoped version. And when we talk about scoped attributes, it just means the domain of the university or the organisation is tacked onto the end of the value. So for a person from, say, Queensland University of Technology, and they're a staff person, their scoped affiliation would be staff at qut.edu.au, whereas their basic affiliation would be staff. Affiliation has a very limited set of values that you're allowed to use. We've got faculty, staff, student, alumni, member and affiliate. And I've highlighted those because those are the ones that the AAF generally use. Employee and library walk-in and faculty tend to get less use. Faculty in other federations gets more use than staff, so it's a bit messy, this whole affiliation thing. But it is a very limited set of things. You can't determine from this if the person's a postgraduate researcher or a postgraduate student or an undergraduate. You've just got the fact that they're a student. And member is, if you're a faculty or a staff or a student, then you also should be tagged with member. I think employee as well is part of member.
There is a tree, a
Yep.
very defined tree in eduPerson schema.
Yep.
So if you are a student or a faculty, you should be faculty, employee, and member. If you're a student, you're a student, member.
Yep.
So yeah. So that it's a really tree.
Yep. And this will give you some basic authorisation information. So if you want to restrict the service to only staff or faculty, then you can do so by using this attribute to say, well, if you're coming in as a student, sorry, you don't get access. Assurance, we'll come back to this a bit later, but there are two aspects to assurance. There's the are you who you say you are? So there's the identity half of this assurance. And that's transmitted through the eduPerson assurance attribute. And the Refeds assurance profile will define how you populate that particular attribute. Then the other aspect is strong authentication. So have you done multi-factor authentication? There are two profiles. There's the single factor authentication, which talks about having strong passwords, password reset timeframes, all that sort of passwordy stuff, or good password usage, and then there's the multi-factor authentication profile, which is about having two factors, a password and a token, or a biometric, or whatever. There's a raft of them you can use. So getting attributes should be easy, but IDPs are reluctant to release user attributes. And there are many reasons for this. A lot of them are historical, and that universities really wanted to know what information was being provided out to their users. And that's primarily around privacy concerns for the university. They don't want their information of their users being published out, because it might cause some issues if they release attributes and the user's unaware. GDPR is another concern that a lot of universities, particularly in Europe, have, and to deal with good practice in the release of attributes and the use of attributes. Ensuring that there's good user consent, and it's not users forced to provide these attributes, or they can't use the service. It's about doing consent properly. And we'll leave that for another day, consent. And the ability for users to revoke that consent. So that's about the proper way of doing consent. Forcing people to, you can't use this service unless you release these attributes, is not proper consent. So there are a number of reasons and issues around actually getting attributes, which have been worked through, and there are a number of solutions that are available. So if your service wants to obtain attributes, they can say, well, I'm not actually going to tell anyone what my requirements are, and I'm just going to hope that the IDP will release everything about a user to me. That's a bit of a pie in the sky dreaming type option, and it will never work. So if you don't tell identity providers what you need, you're not going to get it, generally. But some service providers out there, when we see them and they're requested, they have nothing in their metadata telling us what they need, and they are painful to work with. The next crowd are the service providers that just put it in their documentation. Here's what we need. It's in our documentation. Why aren't you providing it? This is their written documentation, not their technical documentation, not their metadata. And we see those regularly enough, but at least they've given us some indication of what they need, and we can work with those, not happily, more reluctantly than happily, but we do have to deal with those to make sure that the users can access that service. You can put a request in your metadata. Don't know why I put better, but GDPR. I must have been getting tired last night when I was writing this stuff. So just ignore that part about GDPR. So you can request the attributes in your metadata. And that's better because it's actually a technical indication of what your attributes are. But the best way is to use one of the REFED's entity categories, which are around policy-based attribute release. So you're putting information into your metadata about what attributes you need, plus you're putting a statement into the metadata about what policies that you're following when using those attributes. So there are a number of entity categories, or these are basically guidelines and rules about the use of attributes that the REFEDS, or us as a REFEDS organisation, have defined. The first one is research and scholarship. It's an older one now. It's been around for a while. It's got reasonably good uptake of identity providers supporting it and service providers utilising it. It provides a good raft of attributes across those attribute types I talked about. So it's got identity, it's got personalised information, contact and email address, it's got organisational information, it's got assurance no, it hasn't. It's got affiliation information, but it hasn't got any assurance information involved, I don't think. No. So it's been around a while, it's got good take-up. We let any service from eduGAIN that is flagging that they do RNS into our federation. we actually block pretty much everything else at the moment. That's going to change. The next one's anonymous access, and this one says, as long as you've logged in, we don't really need any information about you. And this is really targeted at the publishers to say that this person has logged in, and the university, it tells them basically that this person's from the university. The pseudo-anonymous is similar, but it actually provides a unique identifier, and that can be, it needs to be an anonymous identifier, and so the pairwise ID is probably useful in this space. But it doesn't provide any more personal information. So it's saying this person, this unique person from this university has logged into your service.
With assurance.
With assurance. The next one's personalised access, and this one's very similar to RNS, but it includes the assurance stuff. And it, I think, loses the eduperson targeted ID.
Yeah, this is one the modernized RNS.
Yep. So it's where we want to move to. It's much better than RNS because it's got that assurance stuff. Then there's code of conduct. This is very specific to GDPR countries that can do GDPR, where a service can request a raft of attributes in their metadata, and a IDP that supports them should provide those attributes. There are a whole bunch of rules around doing good GDPR stuff. We can't really play as an Australian federation in the GDPR space because we haven't got over whatever hurdles for our privacy and consent requirements. But talking to Paul the other day, our IDPs can support it. So if there's a service in eduGAIN that is flagging that they want to do code of conduct and have a set of attributes, and our IDPs are willing to release those attributes, then we can support that attribute release. Going the other way, having a service wanting to participate in code of conduct from Australia will probably get pounced on and say we can't do that because we haven't got the appropriate legal frameworks in place within Australia.
So it's even worse. You must be that said, the service provider needs to be in a legal environment that is have an evidence decision by European Commission. So it's a very legal thing, extremely legal thing.
So, but the IDP can support.
The IDP can support it because it's your decision.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the difference. Service provider side is you need to really fulfill GDPR to be able to use code of conduct.
For the service provider?
For service providers.
Yeah.
Identity providers can of course look at it and see and decide by itself if they want to trust it or not.
Which, if I can add something, which probably means that we miss something at the international level that can be used to say that this service provider is respecting these, at least, you know, this is standard of privacy, is applying.
But that is what
but a code of conduct is completely tied to GDPR.
Yeah, it's extremely tied to GDPR. It's written based on GDPR.
Yeah.
But we have some IDPs that want to access services that are only doing GDPR, doing code of conduct.
And that's okay.
Yep.
Definitely makes sense.
Yep. So these ND categories are helping, but require broader take-up from the IDPs across the whole community. So it's not globally everyone's doing all of these things and supporting all of these things. But in Australia, we are working to make that happen. Assurance, the identity assurance is the person logging in really that person. So this is the framework that REFED's provided around the assurance framework. It's not an onerous document to read, and it provides a number of different assurance aspects. The one that's sort of probably the most meaningful is the level of which your users have been verified by your organisation. And there is the none, which means we have no idea. Low, which is there's some sort of verification that somebody's looked at your passport and said, yes, that's it. Medium's between that, and high is they've taken those identity credentials and had them verified by the issuer of those credentials effectively. Read into that document and decide what level your service wants. Is there anyone actually really pushing for, as a service provider, for low, medium or high yet? I know that...
Of course we have.
Yeah. I know...
Service provider.
As a service provider can push for it.
We had one big one.
A really big one, yeah.
Lumi.
All right.
Euro HPC Center.
Yeah.
And we do have in Sweden also things like if you log into student services, student information service, admission systems and things like that.
But you have quite
Then
long
we use,
history. I mean,
we have long
in
history around
assurance
this.
service. That was the first international, at least at the eduGAIN level.
Yep.
First case was really interesting. And we have the NIH.
Yep.
We have NIH.
Yep.
So these are very good. Usually you have advanced use cases like
Yeah, so we're working with our HPC crowds and others who have genomics data and that sort of stuff. And as those services come online, they'll be looking for medium and high levels of identity assurance.
We haven't seen, we have seen very few high. That is about medical data.
Yep.
health and
But,
HPC are the two.
Yeah, they want to, if you want to go there, but they cannot do more than medium right now. Because it's a very high bar for organizations.
We're looking at, what are the PIs? So people running projects and who have the ability to add other people to projects will probably want high. But that's a conversation we're having within our pilot groups that we're working for the assurance, the identity stuff.
So low is that you do mail verification of people, not you looking at passports. That's medium.
Yep.
How about service account?
Service counts?
Yeah.
No. Federation, this is only for persons. Okay. Natural persons.
So means it should be none.
It should not be used at all.
We don't allow service account in
Neither do we. The Federation is for natural persons only in our country.
Okay, we've only got a few minutes left, so I'm going to rip through these last few. We've got the credentials assurance. This is about 2 independent factors for multi-factor, strong passwords, second factors. The big note here is try not to have a local multi-factor authentication for each service. Let your universities deal with multi-factor authentication. Otherwise, you will have a pocket full of authenticators on your phone. I've got about 8 on my phone at the moment, but have the university do the multi-factor and get them to implement the REFEDS multi-factor authentication framework to do that. That one's not overly difficult, except it doesn't work with Google. You'll have to do something else with the Google folk, because Google just don't get it.
So I can say why it doesn't work with Google, because you can reset your password with the second factor only. That is not truly independent.
Yep.
That's why.
So your services really needs to decide what levels of assurance that they need. Majority of services basically go with nothing and let anybody in, and away they go. Beware, the higher the level of assurance, the less likely it is that IDPs will be able to comply. So if you want high, then you're going to have to do a lot of work to get your IDPs up to that speed. But also you need to remember that not every person at that university needs to reach level high. It's only the ones that are hitting services that are asked to do level high that might have to come back and do an additional identity proofing process at your university. Start small, work up. Don't try for the top of the hill to start with. And we've also mentioned that NIH service. They have pushed out that they require multi-factor authentication. And that was fun to watch because when they did that, they just turned the switch. And within months, most of the American identity providers were actually able to do multi-factor authentication because that service provides the funding for a lot of research, medical research in the US.
And in Europe.
And everywhere. Yeah.
Well, a clear carrot or stick and a sense of urgency do help. Yeah.
So authorization, by default, users in eduGAIN organizations can access your service. This may not be what you want. Generally, federations only provide an authentication service. So service providers are responsible for deciding who's allowed in. So they are, at the moment, responsible for their authorization at the service. Federation attributes may help. We talked about the affiliation. And there's also the ARC blueprint architecture, which is around providing authorization, additional attributes, and a whole raft of stuff. Not really going to dive into that, but a number of folk have implemented it. And there's lots of activity in Europe. We're doing a lot of stuff in Australia around providing an authorization capability for services. And I know that in the US, they also do a lot of stuff for authorization. So this is something you need to think about with your HPC service. You don't want just anybody jumping onto the HPC. You'll need to have some sort of way to authorize folk. Yep. Security, certify, do certify, 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 and also make sure that you're doing the good security practices for your service. And as we discussed the other day, certify may become a requirement to join eduGAIN. Be ahead of the game. So if you have doing certify in your federation now, if and when eduGAIN choose to do certify as a requirement to join, then your services and your IDPs will automatically just flow straight through. It should be easy. Publicity, you finally got your service connected to eduGAIN. Make sure your users are aware of it, that they're aware it's available, let your community know, have a communications plan, what, when, how and why and who's going to use it, what are the benefits, all that sort of good communication stuff. Any questions? I'm just over time by 3 minutes. So thanks for listening. Hope you got something useful out of that. I thought it was useful just getting around the room sort of feeling for what people do with their joining processes. I thought that was really useful. And as I said this afternoon, those who are interested will help you get some ideas on how to move forward with building your federation. So, Philippines, the Indonesians, and Taiwan. I expect to see you guys this afternoon. So thanks for being here. The next session's a panel session. I'm not sure which room it is. I think it might be in this one. It's in this room. So we'll see you again in half an hour or whenever that starts. Thank you.
Will you share these slides?
They'll be all on the website.
Oh, great.
I'll then let you know how to get to the website. I'll put it on the onto Slack. So we've got Eric this morning, and he's going to be running a panel session called Reflections and Discussions on Directions for Trust and Identity Community. So thanks, Eric. Over to you.
Thank you. So yeah, we're going to run a little session here. I have invited some people you probably know to this panel because they're always here, right? So I invited Paul, Martin, and David to join me on the panel to have some reflections about this. We're going to go into this panel a little bit later. I'm just going to give a very short overview of who I am and what we're doing here, or what I'm doing here at least. So, I'm Eric. I come from Nordernet. Nordernet is a regional REN for the 5 Nordic countries. We do some services together with Paul is one of, he actually owns me, I think. Sunet is the Swedish.
That is a bad way of saying it.
Oh, that was a bad, okay, sorry, that was bad to say. No. And we run some services and we run some, we actually, Nordernet does not run any federation at all. So all the federations are run by the 4 of the 5 countries. So Sweden is running Swamit, Finland is running Hakar, Norway is running FIDE, and Denmark is running, Iceland is running WAVE. Denmark is running WAVE for Iceland, yeah. Thank you, Martin. Yeah, please correct me when I say something wrong, right?
No, but that's fine.
So this is who Nordernet is, and we run these services and network features, and we do other kind of initiatives around collaboration. One of the things why I wanted to have this session is that we also have a lot of educational stuff going on, and I see that in this identity space, trust and identity, there is now more and more overlapping things in all we do. And we did a survey, and we did a lot of surveys, and these are the top priorities that came out of this survey. And in all of these, even though the third highest thing was trust and identity, but we need trust and identity to run all of these things that you want to do in education. So it's becoming more and more, people are becoming more and more aware of this importance for this trust and identity. When I say people, I mean the users, actually, the ones that are using it, because Paul and these guys have always been pretty aware of it. These guys can tell so much more about this because they do this on a daily basis. But on a European level, we're doing some things. And especially they are running a core RIA platform that enables a lot of the things to connect to each other, so we can reach this level of trust. This is how, more or less, it looks. I think everybody's seen this slide before, and how we connect to each other. The AAI provides a authentication proxy, so we can make sure that Erasmus Plus and other apps can authenticate, and we can have this services up and running in a trust and secure way. There's a lot of people doing it, but there's also some weaknesses in this. There have been some discussions about how to restructure some of the things, and I think that maybe we can go into this a little bit later to cover some of these topics. At least what I'm hearing is that some of the it's hard for these educational vendors to be part of our federations. So we need to cover something, and there have been some attempts to create something, building blocks for education, I think it was called, and other stuff. But my academic ID is there, and it's being used a lot for Erasmus Plus. It has a lot of people using it. What it also does, it supports student mobility, and it supports the university alliances. the university alliances is something that is really big in Europe at the moment. I think there are, how many institutions? It was like, I can't remember. A lot, 500 institutions or something in these university alliances.
Yeah, it's 65 times every time, eight-ish.
Okay, yeah. So it's almost 500, yeah.
So this is the good correlate.
Yeah. So there is a need for us to do some collaboration and discuss this and talk to each other around it.
So please explain for people here what a University Alliance is.
Okay, yeah.
Very interesting concept.
So the European Commission came up with an initiative called European Digital Education Hub. And the hub was then, there was created some alliances. So an alliance is 8 different universities is creating an alliance, and they're giving a set of tasks to solve. One of them is mobility and federation. And then they have all these alliances. I can't remember how many, you said 68?
Yeah, it's 65.
Oh, 65 on here, yeah.
So, but
it changes all the time, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But it was 40, and now they expanded it to like in the 60s.
Yeah.
I didn't know the exact number, and it's every time like 8, 9-ish universities. So.
Yeah, and all these information from all these alliances goes back to the hub, and are being, I hope, by somebody coordinated. So we might come up with a good answer in the end.
So more practically, what we see is that a set of universities work together to deliver some type of educational stuff.
Take the mic out of
Yeah, so what we see practically is that a set of universities working together to create some type of degree, more or less, based on different courses at different universities at the same time. So it's, for example, if you are doing geothermal, you may do things in Iceland and in Italy and so on at the same time, different courses, different views of things, and you get the geothermal degree. So that is the normal use case today.
So that's the that's what, yeah, the basic reason why the foundation was made was so we could bridge this gap, and we could. They're very focused on interoperability too, so get these technologies to merge, and hopefully also influence the vendors a little bit to be part of these standardizations that are made. The standardization framework for the digital education, I think this was actually presented by the hub before. So this is what it looks like. It's a little messy, I think. Sorry?
Yeah, no, this, yeah.
Yeah, it's the one there. But again, this is where we as federations can play a very big role, and it looks something that we work with all the time. And then there are the digital credentials that also attach to this and our federations. So this is exciting. And we in Europe, there's a legislation, I'm not sure, but end of next year, all European countries, 27. End of 27, every European country have to have a digital wallet for their citizens where they can put their micro-credentials into. They have to offer it. I don't know. I'm not sure everybody has to use it, but they have to offer it.
It must be available.
It must be available, yeah. Short overview and a lot of things to think about, and there's a lot of opportunities to collaborate with each other. And I also know that especially these micro-credentials are something that you talk a lot about here in this region too, in Asia. Should we go into the panel, guys? Oh, yeah.
Do you want us to move?
No, I want you to move, but Walter wants to say something. Oh, he's up there. He has a mic.
The digital wallets, just out of curiosity. Okay, again. The digital wallet, out of curiosity, is that something that is being discussed in the Asian region as something that we see emerging over the next years? I'm curious what is.
I haven't heard it in this project, but the guys that are having a conference downstairs, it's something where they discuss a lot. And they actually have some kind of thing running in the School of Internet project. There's a whole, they have a whole, work group working on it. And they created some micro-credentials that looks more or less like the ones we created.
Well, thank you.
I don't know, is anybody in the room involved with those micro-credentials? No.
So the European perspective here is, I don't think the micro-credentials will be in the European wallet, no. I don't think so. No, I think the degrees will be there, but not the micro-credentials, micro-degrees. Okay. Yeah, because it will be too much.
Okay, yeah. So you just have proof of your university degree, of your university, okay. Yeah, welcome guys. I'm really far away from you. Maybe I should come over here and take the. Oh my God! You're sitting all the way in the corner.
Of course.
So I wanted to have a discussion. It's an open discussion, so you can feel free to join in if you want to. But I wanted to have some perspectives on where we can take this and if there are any opportunities where we see we can do something together. And I know these guys are kind of the brains. They are modest, but they are in my world at least on all this federation stuff. So there are some challenges, also global challenges, and I think that you are dealing with them. And there's also some technologies that are changing at the moment. So there's a lot of things. So is there any unique challenges that you have identified that is something that we need to address like really, really soon in a global perspective?
There is and always have been and will always be the release of attributes. The problem to get identity providers to release enough data to services in a good manner in privacy perspective, that is very important. And that is the biggest problem we have between countries, even within countries. Yeah. But especially international level, to get this a university to release name and email address for a person to, for example, the Euro HPC system, can be a real hassle. Even though that, from our perspective, it's European Union money that is used and pay for the things that the university then can use more or less for free. Still, they don't release the data that is needed.
Well, I agree with what Paul says. That is to be an issue, at least to be in an interfederation scale, but even also on a national scale. There is a kind of reluctancy on sometimes giving out the attributes and the authentication credentials because to me it's sometimes, and that's even on a local scale, and the farther you get into federations and interfederation, it gets more complex because trust is local, as somebody would say.
My boss.
Your boss, yes. As Life would say. But I think also the part where that the issue is that on one hand, you have the IDP operator who is responsible for the identity, or at least follows the policies that are set by a university. But sometimes those policies are not always clear. So the IDP operator thinks like, oh, well, I know my local services. They are usually large because it's the student information system and the financial system, and it's for the masters. So you have clear contracts in place. You run them yourself, or you have a clear contract in place with the one who runs them. So that's okay. That you can see that. But if it's then those many services for those 5 researchers, the IDP thinks like, yeah, well, I don't know anything about that one, and gosh, maybe I'm liable, and well, then they have a rather risk at first tendency, which I understand from an IDP operator perspective, but it's a shame from a university perspective, because the costs and the effort are indeed on the IDP operator side, but the benefit is on the research side. I mean, in the end, it's also enabling business. In this case, business is research and education, literally. But it's basically what is your mission you have as a university? Well, to create knowledge, science, and to deliver courses. And having an IDP operator that basically holds that back, well, we need to find better ways into, I would say, the CEOs or the deans of universities, also via our own federations. I must say that there is also benefit in releasing those attributes and making those connections, because every time you do that, a researcher does not have to have its own account, which is at least visibly more safe, because you can reuse the credentials of the university credentials that's anyway already there. So it's also reusing infrastructure, making it more efficient. And also from a security perspective, I mean, in all honesty, especially for a researcher, if he can't go via his own university, he will find a way to get to that access, because he still needs to do his work. And I could arguably say that anyway the university or a researcher goes for another route, makes it less secure. Anyway.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry. Yes.
I was still pondering all that. Put him on the spot. Yeah,
no.
sorry.
Yeah, I want to continue to talk about this topic because I think it's crucial. I agree with Paul, and I thank Martin for having put this in this perspective. But I'll try to give another angle, which is that why it is so difficult. And I mean, you have named a number of reasons, but why? I mean, why really? I mean, attribute release at the end of the day, why it is so complex? I mean, if the IDP operator knows exactly what are the services that need to be accessed by his users, maybe, I mean, he could configure the IDP to just release his attribute at the end of the day. And I think that many of the reasons why this is not happening all the time are related to what Martin has said, but also to the fact that this is really a complex system. Yeah. It's complex inside the institution itself, because most of the time the IDP operator does not know what are the services accessed by the users. And if you count that the services are both local to the institution, coming from the federation, and coming from eduGAIN in the number of thousands of services, multiplied by different use cases made by, again, usually tens of thousands of users per institution, this is really a complex system. So somehow I'm sympathetic with the IDP operator that has to, do this job. I don't want to blame them, even though I do agree that, I mean, sometimes this risk-adverse attitude is really annoying. But at the same time, they have to deal with the complexity that adds up to the work that they're doing every day. So how can we try to reduce this complexity? So maybe we can talk about this later, but I think that the entity categories, for example, that so these labels that we put on services to tag them and say, this is a service that has these needs and it's coming from, well, yeah, there's these needs for attributes, but probably they prove not to be enough. At the end of the day, this is the net result, because we still have this problem of releasing attributes, and if we still have this problem, well, it will be difficult to answer all these services needs that you were listing before. So I think that we need to find a way to address this complexity and, you know, make it more manageable.
I have another topic which I still think needs to be raised, and what I even heard this morning amongst ourselves is that, let me vouch that SurfNet is also, yeah, that we're also into, yeah, that we're into public values, and what means that well, doing good for the world, but also making sure stuff stays open in an interoperable way. And what I see now, at least in the Netherlands, that there are really, really many universities going full-blown into the Microsoft ecosystem. And why I can understand it for very good reasons, at least from a financial perspective, it also has really some well, at least say challenges. I mean, if you want to collaborate, then and you're into the Microsoft ecosystem for both your directory and your IDP and your services, Microsoft is not per se in a very good open system to connect to other services that are outside of that ecosystem. And for instance, if I take the case of the university alliances, the European, I mean, probably the most easy way for a university alliance is to basically say, well, if everybody is in a Microsoft system, yeah, and you connect all your system services also to that Microsoft federation, you're done. Yeah, and you're done in a quite easy way, but you're fully vendor locked in for the rest of your life. That's basically it. And I still think we should vouch there also to make those initiatives that are still open in an interoperable and in a scalable, decentralized way, because otherwise you know for sure that for all kinds of reasons, your data is into big tech, your identity is in big tech. I won't mention all kinds of geopolitical issues that are around here, but that also definitely chips in if somebody push a big red button, you're out of business as a university. So yeah, that kind of that we keep the autonomy and we keep the interoperability alive. That's really what I'd like to see.
And what we see with the big tech is that depending on what big tech you choose, you can work with some, work with not with others, and stuff like that. So that's what we are doing in this type of community is crucial. We are opening it up so we can work together without thinking about the technology in the background.
Well, exactly. I mean, yeah. I mean, it's just to chip in and David again. I'm really passionate about this. I mean, for me, I mean, everybody in the end should be able to use its own systems, and there should not be a mandatory you shall use this vendor or this piece of software. And of course, we will use several pieces of software we all use, but even in this world, like we have Shibboleth, we have SimpleSAML, PHP, we have the Python implement. We have three kinds of implementations, all open source, all more important interoperable. There are some closed source alternatives, fine, but at least as long as it's interoperable, you can be your own guardian of what you want to use and not mandatory by some vendor.
Yeah, I really don't have anything to add on this topic. You've said, you've said, yeah, no, I'm as you, I'm really an advocate for open standards, even more than open source. Yeah. And if someone has hindered the development of open standards, it's the people we're talking about. So, yeah, I say, if possible, stay out of there.
Okay, so one of the challenges that I heard that the university could have is that what of the services that they can actually connect their federation to? Could you make like a blue stamp, like this is whatever federations we are accepting these things, or like a global catalog or something like that? Would that be an idea, or have that been tried before, or is that just hanging somebody in the out?
So this is a $1 million question. Comes up every 5 years, and we have done this for 20 years now. Service catalog.
Yeah.
Service catalog, there are different type of organizations tried in different, the last one I heard was Australia that doing a service catalog now. From an international perspective, we see it as very, very hard to do stuff like that, because what we have in metadata is what we can publish. Otherwise, there needs to be a curator some way or not. And the curator part is extremely hard and costs an extreme lot of money, because it's people working. It's not AI, it's not anything else. It's just people. Sorry?
Not yet.
Not AI, not yet. Yeah, that's true. It could help, but to really get it good, you need to curate it.
I was actually thinking more that not you maintaining that catalog, but I was thinking like giving them the vendor or the service a blue star. So when a university wants to connect, they could see when they went to them, oh, they had this certified blah, blah, blah.
So that is what entity categories are. Yeah. So that's not, it's about describing entity categories to be what you talked about earlier today, is a marking and metadata, setting up a rule set for that service. That the rule set is you need to follow these things in this open defined specification. And if you do that, you can have that type of marking on you. And it may or may not include release of attributes from an IDP, but get the IDPs to trust that is hard.
So as Paul was saying, I mean, this has been tried many times, but I think that I would argue that out of technical information, you would need at least a brief description of the service and the audience, at least, I mean, and how to, enable the service, either subscription-based, paid, contract, whatever. And if you count the number of services that we have in eduGAIN, almost 4,000, it's we do have problem in asking them to add just a few metadata, a few information about the service, and we are talking about technical information that are needed to run the service. As Paul was saying, the requested attributes. Forget about description, audience, and how to subscribe to the service. I mean, at least it's quite difficult to have this for the 78 federations that are participating to eduGAIN right now.
So as Paul says, we're starting to roll out a service catalogue in the AAF. It's been one of my things that I've been wanting to make happen for a while. And I agree, the maintenance of that catalogue's very difficult. We do have a process in place called our yearly compliance, and that's going to be extended to say, here is the information that we have published about your service. If it's wrong, let us know, and put the onus back on the owner of that information to regularly update it. And I think over time, our service providers will come to realise that it's their responsibility to make sure that their information is correct within our systems. We can't do that ourselves. We've just not got the manpower to do it. But we will start with what we do have. One of the other restrictions that I've sort of come across recently is that the description has got, it's an open-ended description, but the recommendations is for within the metadata, you restrict that to 140 characters. That's like an old tweet of days gone by. Nobody can tweet 140 characters anymore. You've got to have much more space, but that's not going to be available in the metadata. So anything we're going to get from other federations is going to be truncated, short, and not very useful.
How to distribute this information and how to,
you don't want to, and you don't want to bloat the metadata any further than it's bloated at the moment. We don't publish our icons because, well, for a number of reasons, but that's just one of them.
So I'm going to stay over here when I ask them this question, because Terry, maybe you need to defend me, because they were going to kill me now. Because one of the things that all three of them said was, it's super difficult to run a federation. And I've been working in projects, especially in Africa Connect and with some of the Inrans, and they really want to run federations and they think it's super complicated. So is the policies and stuff like that too complicated? Have you made it too complicated? I'm really not sure I want to give you the mic, but. So is it your fault or whose fault is it?
It's my fault.
It's Paul's fault. Okay.
I'm the policy guy, so that's no. The problem is trust, and what you said before, trust is local, and what we are trying to do with federations, especially in the interfederation case, is that we are trying to do local trust in multiple layers. So a federation operator has to trust against the home organization trusts the federation operator, and the federation operator trusts the home organizations. But the federation operator also trusts the interfederation operator and vice versa. So that part of trust, that is the hard part, and that's why we need policies. We need to be able to describe how we do stuff in a good manner in some type of standardized way. So that's why there are policies, that's why we demand things like metadata registration practice statements and things like that. It's about building the trust. But I totally agree with you that it may seem too hard from the outside. I totally agree on that. But if we were 5 federations that we were from the beginning, or 7, the first 7 that eduGAIN, we didn't care because everyone knows each other. But today we are not there anymore.
No. And for that matter, I think even on exactly you have now the layer that the institution trusts the federation basically trusts the interfederation and technically the other federations. And we should even probably raise the bar even more on a level of eduGAIN, because technically it's now more of a technical trust infrastructure, not so much a policy tech infrastructure. So that makes it even, well, I think we should raise the bar for that because, well, what Paul says, you don't have 5 anymore, it's 78. So it's no longer that you can do the warm fuzzy feeling of trust by knowing the people, because in the end, trust is about whatever you do. You can write down policies that much, but it also has to have a comfortable feeling of what you have. And the other aspect is, yeah, the fact that if you want to make sure it works, you have some kind of guarantees. So both in quantity and quality, you need to raise the bars. On the other hand, I also understand, for instance, when eduGAIN started, it was basically a technical infrastructure for metadata exchange, and with good reasons to have a low bar on that and expand this. So I do understand, and there is one of the inventors of eduGAIN also in the back of the room. So if he wants to comment later on that, that's fine. Thanks, Walter.
Old sins?
Yeah. No, but I mean, Walter was in the beginning of eduGAIN there, so that's and for good reasons. That was there. So yeah.
Well, yeah. So
there is a mic behind you.
I'll go.
Keep that one here and take the other one, Mike. You're running there. You don't want to see me running around? It's getting faster. We have 2 mics running.
I would have usually stood up. No, Mike, Martin, you've... Okay. So my name is Leila Dekker, I work for Jean. Martin, you've been raising in multiple sessions already this week that we have a technical trusted environment, but now we need to move on to the real, well, to have additional measures in order to make sure that what we see there is correct. My question is this not going to be an extra barrier for access to eduGAIN? And how do we make sure that we make those decisions in a very inclusive way? Can we make sure that at the table of designing what it means to trust each other from a more policy level, we have all the new stakeholders, because technically they are as relevant members as the 7 initial ones, let's say. Thank you.
So I asked them if they could make it less complicated, and he said, no, let's make it more complicated. Basically, that's what I heard.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
But we need to make it easy also.
Yeah, no, you want... It's complicated.
Yeah. So currently there is a work with an eduGAIN steering committee and eduGAIN service to make things, how to figure out to make things more trusted, but still keep the low bar, entrance bar. You need to do it. I think we will in the future have 2 levels of trust, more or less. Because we need to get in all those that doesn't have a federation today, and they cannot go in on the high bar directly. So we need to figure out how to do this in a sensible, good way. And so, Eric, yes, it's hard, but it shouldn't be as hard for the new ones.
No.
That's very important.
My question is then, when are you going to do that?
We are working right now on it.
So next month's ready?
No, a year or so, or 5.
So I think that what is really complex, I do agree with the fact that it's a complex environment, but I argue that much of the complexity is due to uncertainty. So it is not just that the technical part might be hard, and I'm saying this for newcomers because I've been following up with them. Now we are talking with Ghana, with Burkina Faso, for example, and so the technical part is complex. The policy part is complex due to the fact that it is uncertain. So it's difficult to meet expectations. This is why if we make the policy more straightforward, in my mind, we're not really, I hope we'll find a way not to cut out anyone with this, but trying to use both an incremental process and, as Paul was saying, tagging, the more advanced and the other one, well, advanced. Those that can respect some policies and the other that cannot, but in a clear way. Either you do it or you don't. Trying to, diminish the uncertainty, because that is adding a lot of complexity. Not knowing from a service provider point of view if something is working or not, and for whom in eduGAIN, this is definitely killing us. And I'm talking about, for example, we've had a lot of complaints in the past from CERN, from, for example, and actually from HPC systems in Europe, and all the other people that are really not fond of eduGAIN and the federation space, because they say, is this going to work? What is exactly the level of security that you can provide? It is difficult to tell, because the policy are, a bit fluffy.
Yeah. Grab the mic.
Yeah, I think I've got contact.
I think you touched on a good comment. So one of the things when we built eduGAIN long time ago, so I was the project lead for eduGAIN 2008 and some years. And that was really the vision at that time, was to build the technical interoperability so that there would be the underlying framework in exchanging the trust information, the technical trust information between all the entities, between the service providers and identity providers. The discussions of attributes was relevant already at that time. There was an OpenID Connect meeting here in Japan 2011, where a lot of that discussions on how do we ensure the transfer of attributes to take place, and the challenge of that already by then. But on the question of security in eduGAIN, there is one thing that makes eduGAIN in our community unique, and it's good to take that sometimes to remember. Who knows best who is a student? Yeah. Who knows who is a researcher? And who knows who is connected to an institution? And that information, it's only the institution that have sovereignty. They are the ones that really know that information. And that is invaluable. And we need to find that way to how to communicate that information in a trustworthy way between universities, between identity providers and service providers. It's a big challenge. I don't have an answer. We've been looking for that answer for a long time. But it's good to remember that as a community, we have a unique position. Whatever comes from Microsoft or anyone else, they may have a technical, very good platform for providing some identities, but they have no idea who we are. Just a comment.
No, thank you so much, Walter, because that is exactly our unique selling point. That is true. And also, but please go ahead.
Totally agree what Walter just said. If I put, however, myself into the position of a student, of a researcher, and I was sitting here and I hear how you guys struggle really creating that trust, I would lobby with my department, let's just go via Microsoft. I'm just putting myself into those shoes.
You're right. We actually, in Africa Connect, or in Africa, we see universities doing that. That's why we have a proxy thing.
Yeah, that's exactly because I wanted to say, I mean, this sound a little bit, I don't want to, because mind you, eduGAIN is really successful. I mean, we have, exactly, I also want to put that into perspective. I mean, we're now struggling what we think can go better, but mind you, of course, we have connected like 78 countries. We are really successful because basically every transaction that goes via eduGAIN means no need for somebody else to create an own account, no need to go via Microsoft. I mean, everything. Is it perfect? Far from that. But are we successful? Definitely. Sorry. No, let me emphasize that too. And I think also for and that's what I also wanted to put in as positive comments also. I mean, mind you, I mean, yes, we want to raise the bar because I think that's better for predictability of the service. But we also use initiatives, for instance, in Europe on the core AI platform where we have My Academic ID to get very successful ratings to get people in via the Erasmus Plus project for student mobility. We're now using it also to get into university alliances to connect them in a very easy way. So no, I mean definitely, and exactly what Walter was saying. The unique selling point is the fact that university knows what we can do. And yeah, that it's complex. I think personally also part of the complexity is in the fact that we have pushed quite some complexity to the access to the university itself. Now I know my my neighbor does not agree with me, but to my humble point, the fact that Surf Connect was built on a hub and spoke approach, we centralized stuff, made that some of those complexities are now pushed to the center of in our case at Surf, and we do also the technical complexities. We basically hide all the complexities for university for them because we do it hub and spoke, and basically the proxies like My Academic ID and My Access ID are also hub and spoke, basically releasing complexity to the edges. And my humble opinion, we should go for a more proxy approach, stage approach, to hide that complexity, because exactly in the end what the university must supply, in my point, is this is a student with his attributes, and let the complexity be tackled at different places. And now my neighbor may comment on that.
Federation as a service was what you're saying, basically.
No, not at all. No.
It depends on what your definition as a service is. I mean, basically, is Surf Connect Federation as a service? Well, we offer the federation to the universities. Yes.
So it is a service.
Yeah, it is a service because in the end, the university only has to connect to Surf Connect, and we tackle all the complexity.
I will not say federation service. We'll say federation use as a service. More. So from my perspective, me and Walter worked for years and years and years with community. You built it on a proxy, we built it on a community.
Yeah.
So there is different ways of doing stuff. But the end goal is the same. I normally tell a story. I said part of it already this week. When I started work at Uppsala University in 1997, the rector called me up and asked me to go to a researcher. That was a rather influential Nobel Prize taker. He asked me I need to be able to work together with my fellow researchers all over the world. We need to be able to communicate in a good way. And we couldn't solve that in a good way until 2015, 16, when things started to work in Federation world. Then they could do stuff that they want to do in 90s. So don't forget that what we have, the steep curve we have had here is we are successful because we are doing this stuff today, but we need to be even more successful. And that is what we're trying now. So it's about to make things better. Not America, but it's about to make things better.
Yeah, just want to add one bit. I think that what has been done more than 10 years ago in building eduGAIN is so successful that we are now here to talk about advanced use cases. But, I mean, somehow we are the victim of our success because this infrastructure has become so reliable, so global, and it's attracting so many people around the world and end runs and users that now the needs, I mean, the requirements for the infrastructure are higher. And the expectations are higher. And this is what we need. So it's probably completely silly to say, oh, we should have done this differently from the beginning. Probably we wouldn't be able to be here if we would have done things differently from the beginning.
No, no, you're not getting it. No.
Well, I fully agree with him.
Yeah, Lila?
No, moving back to maybe a more Asian context, what are the trends that you see from the Asian federations and what are the quick fixes? Like you always notice some errors, but actually that's the solution and this is how you could improve it.
They don't want to answer that.
I can answer that. The standard trend for new federations, not only Asia, but we see it clearly here in Asia, is the access to publisher services. That is the trend. If you look at a lot of federations here, they are, for example, Terry talked about India earlier today. They are doing this more or less only for access to publishers. I hope that we will come into research community, research infrastructure access and things like that in the future. And education. But Europe is a bit specific there because we do a lot of stuff within Europe together. If you have those type of things, you can use the federation, of course, for that. But making just publishers work is good. It's very good. And that is what we see in new federations. Then access to big telescopes, HPC systems, discussion forums and things like that for researchers. That is the natural next step. When we did this from the beginning in Europe, we did the other way around.
No, I completely agree. The only thing that I want to add is that the publishers are basically making, even now, they're making the vast majority of the logins happening on eduGAIN and probably in all the identity federations that we have. But a few logins from the telescopes or HPC systems are the more valuable. So really, I mean, the advanced use cases, even if this is where we are providing a great service for our community that nobody else can provide.
I also think here what you see sometimes is the impact both in quality and in quantity, because it's for instance those small services in amount of users, which are the telescopes and the stuff like that, but very high impact. I mean, access to the Lumi computer, which we provide via my Access ID, is something that, well, the amount of users is not that high, but the impact it has is very high. On the other hand, go to the My Academic ID service, which we see here in Europe. It's the masses from students that uses it, which makes it way more reliable for everybody to use. Otherwise, everybody had to have a separate login. Well, that doesn't scale. I mean, this makes scalability and exactly the USP, the fact that we know, our institutions know, who are the students and who are the researchers.
can I just ask one more question? So I just want to make sure that nobody mistakes me for one of the students that pushes for Microsoft. Yeah, so that I want to make very clear. And for me, yeah, eduGAIN, what you said of federated access to expensive resources like HPC, this is such a fantastic value proposition. My point is, I know in Europe, we do promote. We do really sell that value proposition very well. Do you know, or have you got a feeling about that kind of, I call it marketing because for me, marketing is not a dirty word. Do you see that also in other regions, including Asia? Is it actually being promoted by, is there local ownership for that?
Yeah, that's very simple and a hard question at the same time. What we see is that, for example, in Americas, they are doing the same thing that we do in Europe. But if you less communication, you less service you use together, you less of this you have. So you need to find those things. You need to find, for example, a project or that, for example, is an HPC use over many countries. That's the things you need to find to make this work and take hold. Yeah, you need you need to do this both in especially the research community. We need to reach out to the research community, and the only one that can do that is the researchers themselves and the federation operators. They are there to help.
David, I want to go back to something you said earlier today. You said you were sitting and helping out these new federations connecting technically. Is there a trend in challenges? Is it one thing, or is it just super technical challenging for them to go on? And how do we solve that problem? Is that just call you?
No, it's yeah. So we do have a training initiative inside eduGAIN. We used to have. We are now preparing a new round, basically one every year, either remotely or in presence. But we are now converting all the learning material that we have set up in these years into something like an online course you can take by yourself. But the point is that why it is so difficult? Because it is not just a technical challenge, it is an organizational challenge, it is a policy challenge at the same time. So this is the difficult part. And a cultural challenge to some extent as well. So this is really the thing. And of course, the fact that you may be in a country where most of organizations do not have a very well developed identity management system is hindering you back. So is a blocker. The number of countrywide project that could foster the adoption of a federation is low because you miss the infrastructure. So it might become also a chicken and egg problem. So this is something that usually is easier when you have these two things, at least identity management well developed, the need locally. I'm talking about inside the country, the need for something that can be used for countrywide services or countrywide projects. So it's something that I think this is the complexity, because it's something that has to do with the will to do these things. If you don't have the push, the needs, and something already built in terms of infrastructure, then the complexity is very high. But it is high because you have to solve a lot of problems at the same time.
Yeah. And you were saying here in a country, but I even think already on an institution, it's already there. If you don't have a well-maintained identity management system in your institution, it's already going to be hard to. Yeah, I mean, then it's basically garbage in is garbage out, to put it a bit bluntly. Sorry, Dutch. But I mean, if you have a good identity cycle management in your institution or not, I mean, if you use that for your, if you federate your own local services and you have a good identity management system there in place, you can use that for your own institution. I think that should already be the largest carrot, to have a good identity management system for your own services. And if you use that, then you can basically reuse and expand that at basically the same cost to other services that come from your federation and from eduGAIN. But it starts with having your own system and your own services.
And today those new identity systems are the big techs, Microsoft, Google, and so on. So what we see, another trend we see, is that there are bridges between those big tech and the identity federations. So because the big tech's technology cannot handle our, now you will use a very technical word, multilateral federation. They can have bilateral things, but we do it in a much more scalable way, and they cannot handle that. Therefore, we need bridges, and that is what's happening all over the world right now.
Yeah, and Microsofts and the Googles are basically also, I mean, we're for them an edge case, or not financial enough of an interest, nor the interest to basically be interoperable, because that's basically, well, bad for business.
Even though that we talk to them directly.
Yeah. To be honest, I don't completely agree on this. I think that Microsoft, especially, maybe Google is not really paying attention to us. But Microsoft has been dealing with this community for so many years, and they very smartly made their systems compatible to some extent with us, but not enough. And I think, I mean, it would have taken just really a small step for them, something a bit, to be completely interoperable. They decided not to. So they basically, yeah, you know, and I think that they've done this for a purpose, because they were moving to this centralized platform. They are basically against this kind of distributed system where you are in control of your own. To be honest, I think this is at least the plan, but that's just an opinion.
Okay. I'm gonna ask you something about if the NRENs can do something for you, because I'm looking at, I have my good friend Tawit sitting right here, and we started a project many years ago, 16, 17 or something like that. We started this project, and one of the things we discussed, 18? 2018. We started this project, and one of the things we discussed at that time was federations also, because it was a user-focused service that we were deploying, and we discussed, so is there anything, if I work on a project anywhere in the world, it could also be in Africa, is there anything that you need? Or because Tawit is the CEO of BDRN, so if I had some information and we could sit together, that it would make life easier for deploying or getting started on a federation. Is there like a cookbook? Is there anything or information I need to share? Is there a forum I say, hey, you need to jump to these guys, or something where we can do something that will ease up things for everybody?
So this is multi-level. So I will take the first level. I will put it over to Martin and Davide for next. The first thing I see that NRENs can do, both from a national and global perspective, is to promote federations, promote the use of it. Help, even though, especially in Asia, it's very much universities around federations together with other universities. It's not NRN, but even then, the NRN can support this motion of doing stuff, even though the NRN doesn't do it itself. That's a quite important part, because it depends on where we stand, where we start. If it is going to the way we're going here in Asia today. Or as in Australia, there it's not NRN, it's another legal entity that runs it, but still the NRN can promote it, help with it.
Yeah, and what you say, depending if it's the NREN who runs it or wants to run it or another organization, collaboration, yeah, promote it, and to be honest, if you're the NREN and you do have the money, because there it boils down to, put investment in this, because it pays out. Of course, it costs money on an NREN level to invest in this infrastructure, but in the end it pays out to your connecting members, because they have a lower burden of administrative costs, because basically the thing they anyway do for their identity management system then be used also for the stuff going to the publishers, to well, the HPC systems, anything. So yes, of course, it costs money. It is an investment. It is an infrastructure, and infrastructure has to be maintained. But again, here collaboration. The reason that an NREN is there is also to connect its members, because well, each and every university could do its own network connection. But why would you if you can collaborate? And well, the same is for the federation. You could do it all on your own, but if you do it in a scalable, centralized way, it lowers costs and it gives bigger benefits.
So Eric, you just answered for me. Talk with me. Yeah, that's, I mean, how no, really. I mean, yeah, we do have guides. We do have cookbooks. We do have, of course, support emails. You just drop a line to support@edugain.org. But I'm here for this, as the eduGAIN service owner, and we come here exactly for this.
I will post his phone number later. No. Yes.
Actually, I also could share some of our experiences about how to deploy this and how to collaborate with eduGAIN. Honestly, at the very beginning, sorry, I need to introduce myself. I'm Jian from CERNET China. So at the very beginning, honestly, it was very difficult for us to follow all the document process. So even our professor from Peking University, which is one of the best university in China, she's really good. She's good at technical things and English writing, but it was still very difficult for her to follow all those kind of procedures. Finally, after half year, he made it. So then later on, what she did is really, really helpful for us, is that she lead a team to develop a platform to make life easier for our universities. That's why our IDs, AP IDs are, how to say that, it's growing. That's really a big achievement she made. And another thing is investment. Yes, it is. And then we have a company, non-profit company, which helps CERNET for the daily operation and also all these kind of services. So the CERNET.com invest money annually to Peking University, to this team, to maintain the eduGAIN and eduROM, all those kind of daily works. But that's something, the process for joining eduGAIN and also the NREN's efforts, how to help the universities and investment.
If possible, I would like to, so I've seen your platform at TNC, the one you use to manage the entities, and yeah, we've met there, and it's an incredible platform. I have to say I was impressed. But one of the things that might help are regional organizations like APAN. Well, actually, it is because we are here, right? So, I mean, in Europe, GEANT has been a great driver for the adoption of federations. In Africa, WACREN and UbuntuNet, of course, and ADREN, partially at least, has been really helpful. And APAN, of course, it is very helpful as well. So I think that if you can help I mean, if the members of APAN can help also, as they are already doing, AEF has been done a great work on this.
Right.
The other countries in the region, you know, to develop the Identity Federation, a local help, with our support, of course, I mean, the eduGAIN support, but a local help would be more than welcome, I think.
Oh, sorry. No, just to reiterate what I said exactly, I mean, for the universities to collaborate in an NREN, it's good for the NRENs to collaborate in these platforms as APAN to also learn from each other, because basically, again, doing it together makes it way more beneficial, and you're not on your own, because there are people in the same position who did it. And yes, I do agree, and also with the investment, it's not only money, but it's exactly because just in the network business, you have a learning curve on how do these protocols work and what's the system, and starting really from scratch. Yes, you have to have one or two people who must make themselves comfortable with this. I mean, don't ask me anything about BGP or stuff like that, but it's also as a learning curve. And the same for this. It's doable, but it's a specialistic part of the IT world.
Yeah. So thanks. I really appreciate that, and I'm very happy to introduce our colleagues to the Tarit, our friend from BDRN, and also thanks a lot for the efforts at APAN. There were so many sessions here, and just sometimes we lose some connections between the colleagues from us. They are not here, and sometimes they not that often join TNC. I encourage them. So that's why last year, please use this platform to introduce your work here. So I think they took every chance, but not so many errands from APAN. They can go to TNC. So that's why this is very important. And then we could introduce each other and share our experiences. Yeah, thank you.
So thank you very much, and thank you for giving me the platform to say something. So we have our federation, Tiger Fed, T for trust, I for integrity, G for group management, ER for education and research. And Tiger is our national based, you can say. So we call it Tiger Fed for Bangladesh. And I'm grateful to Terry for being our mentor, being our trainer, being everything actually. Terry did it. We didn't do anything. So I'm grateful to Terry. Okay. So actually we are driven by the demand of our education community. So you were right. As Asian Federation, we are more interested in connecting the publishers. So we have 15 publishers now connected to our federation. It used to be the university community. They used to use Open Athens for getting access to the publishers, but now they are coming, they need to pay. So we are offering it free of cost. We don't charge anything because we have other cash cow services. So we are not depending on this federation earning. So we are very much sustainable. So we are trying to promote the federation to the education community. So universities are now coming up. It was a chicken and egg question before. They used to say that if you don't connect all the publishers, then how we can connect to you? We cannot get simultaneously connected to Open Athens and to Tiger Fed. So you have to connect to the publishers. If we approach the publishers, they used to say, you don't have any members. So why should we get connected to you? So the problem is now solved. 15 publishers are there, and most of the universities, they use the publishers. They are now connected. So we are moving ahead, we are moving forward. But yes, no telescope service, no HPC service. Probably it is our incapacity that we couldn't approach the right researcher to promote our federation, or it can be other way around. The researchers are not that much advanced enough. I am not sure, but maybe there are researchers in our country also. But definitely it's a wonderful platform to share our ideas, to share our views, and to get ideas from you. Actually, Paul was mentioning that it worked the other way around. The researchers, they came to first to HPC or telescope uses, more connected to research federation. We are more connected to education federation. So that is the situation in our country. I will love to talk to you guys with my technical expert. I don't know anything technically, so I will love to talk to you. And Terry helped us. I am again grateful to Terry. It would not have been possible without the help of Terry. So we are now in a stable state. So that's all from my side. Thank you.
Yep, I'm coming.
Walter may need to correct me now. But the thing that made our federation Swamid work and tick was killer services. That was the only thing that made us stand up and run fast. And the first killer service we had was a student system, the central admission system in Sweden. The second one was Adobe Connect, if you remember that service. That was long before Zoom. So it's an e-meeting system. It was an e-meeting system. And then we got other services. We got we are always running on finding and doing killer services to make things happen.
I think that goes for that's the best way to promote a federation. And Walter, we need to make some stickers that we can carry around. I think we need to promote this, right? And since you are who you are, then you should be the one making the stickers. Yeah, exactly.
Just one thing is, we're not here anyway to teach anyone. I mean, we have some experience, maybe a different grade of maturity, but to be honest, we are here to receive questions and to learn exactly what we can do better. Because it's us that we are learning how the things are done in this part of the world and what eduGAIN can do for helping you.
Yeah, and I think eduGAIN and in general identity federations, because exactly if you mention on the stuff, I mean, we try the best we can with information and documentation we provide on Connect to eduGAIN and how to federations. But please, well, Walter is standing up and asking a question. Please raise exactly, come out to us, because we're doing it to the best of our knowledge, but we also have knowledge gaps or cultural gaps or any.
And before Walter says something here, I will say it very simple. I'm here especially to learn from you because we are a bit stuck. We have done this for so long, so we need new, fresh ideas.
Just to comment on a little bit, Tarif, on BIDER and also to comment on the use cases. And you're perfectly right, Paul. Those were the two cases that were driving the Identity Federation in the creation in Sweden in 2006, 2008. There was something before that, and that was around the 2003. There were some universities in the Stockholm region that thought, we have students that are going between each other. Shouldn't we be able to share the Wi-Fi login between these students? This is way before eduroam. So then there was a project that at that time started with the same concept, that you had identity providers from the universities, and they had these, you remember these CAPTCHA login pages? And you could do this CAPTCHA login between a few universities that were based in that was a first use case. But it was still the underlying area. There was an ask for joint collaboration, doing something together, where you could then reuse the identities from the universities. And all those use cases, they are always unique. There are always going to be something. Maybe it is something from the ministry. Maybe it is the publishers. Maybe it is a research. Maybe there's a telescope. Maybe there's something else. Whatever it is, it's something that we need to work with and engage with our stakeholders and try to identify how can we help them move forward. And it's sometimes a technical problem, but mostly a human interaction and trying to identify what are the things that we can work on together. And the Captcha Federation died when eduroam came, so then it was.
The one thing that also helped make BDREN and other federations possible in our region was the funding from GIANT that we got through the TN or the Asia Connect program. That's all dried up now, and it's really hard to get people to come to these conferences physically in mass. We used to have a person from every nation to turn up. It was really easy to do training. We had 30 people in the room, all eager to learn how to do federation stuff. That's now really hard to do because they've got to make their own way here. So the funding of getting people to these conferences is also difficult.
Exactly. That's actually a theme that I'm hearing all around the conference. I actually have one last question, because Walter, every time I hear him talk, he talks about these ships that breaks the internet all over the world, all the time. That's all he talks about, basically, or maybe a little cable that he's putting somewhere. That can't break because there's ice on top of it. Yeah, you all heard that talk. So my question to you is, because this is also what I hear about the Federation, oh, it's trusted and it's secure. But is it secure? Is it that secure? What, is the Federations not being targeted for cyber attacks and stuff like that? Isn't it getting more and more difficult? Isn't it? Is there? This is his last question before lunch, so just take your time. Yeah, operation.
Yeah, this is, it has, of course, a policy side and a project management side.
But they overcomplicate it.
Yeah, but they overcomplicate. So I can talk about operations. I'm also part of the eduGAIN C-cert.
Yes.
So, and this is something that here, the program manager, the project manager side has been fostering and advocating. And so we've been, we created initially an eduGAIN security team, and with the of course, with the support of the project, we have turned this into a full-fledged C-cert for eduGAIN. Even though, I mean, the effort is not too much. But I think what's important is that we have an incident response team for these kind of things. And security, but mostly incident response, can become quite complex at this level. And the problem, again, it's in the people not talking each other. So this is the real problem, the coordination. So the coordination among, multiple countries and multiple organizations. This is why eduGAIN C-cert can play a role as a trusted party. So here is where trust can support security and incident response. Without the trust, people are not talking each other, and you can't have better security and incident response. And from the technical point of view,
Yeah, it doesn't work.
No, it does work, but again, the fact that we don't have a baseline for example, for the identity assurance, can have some implication. So you can have, for example, an open IGP in eduGAIN, and which is completely fine if you know that the assurance level of the identity is coming from that IDP is very low, and then you make a choice, right? But if you have open IDP in eduGAIN and you don't know that the identity is coming from that IDP, a really low assurance, then the service provider can't make a choice. And of course, if they have critical resources, they should probably not allow very low identity assurance identities.
From a security perspective, this is a very distributed security part. So if there is a hacker group or something that trying to do something, it's not so much in the infrastructure they can do.
Oh yes, SURF.
Oh, SURF, of course. That's the problem when you have a big gateway. Sorry.
I'll refrain from comments.
But the thing we have, the big problem here is if someone attacks a university, the user from that university have a problem reaching services, and we cannot solve that. That is down to a local university, but it's a very low group of users, very few users but it is important for that group of users. So it's important that the home organization does their security work in a good way.
Yeah, and to me, I don't think federated identity is inherent more secure or insecure than any other service, for that matter. I think for me, two things, especially on the technicals, for both the resource providers as well as university, do use standard libraries. Don't try to invent it yourself, because we've seen that most often, but also with other services. If you do it yourself, well, you always feel miserably because you have way more leakages. And the other thing, I mean, mind you, what is, I mean, in the end, federation and identity management is a part of the security service portfolio anyway themselves. The alternative is that you have to do manual username and passwords in each and every resource. Well, well, that gives a hassle, that gives probably many more open leakages, not disabled accounts, people reusing the passwords basically anywhere, because we're human, we want to have it simple. So the password I use at service 1 is also the password I use at service X. So if that password is somehow hacked, and for sure one would like to get other users, for sure can get into the other services too, because your credentials are out there. So I mean, mind you, is the service perfect? No, but I think the federated approach we use is way more secure than the alternative of using independent username and passwords.
Thanks a lot. Yeah. Yeah, but I think we should break for lunch now. Now we've been listening to these for almost 1.5 hours, right? So I was gonna actually finish it up now. So thanks a lot for listening. Thanks a lot for listening to these guys. As you hear, if you have any questions about federation, these